Hello everybody, welcome to Cal-Am Resorts Photography Workshops. My name is Randy Anagnostis and I'll be your host for these programs. Whether you are a beginner, a novice, or an experienced photographer, I hope you'll find some information that will be useful next time you go out to shoot. So let's get started with tip number 1. Choose your time of day. Planning your photo shoot can produce much better photos. You've probably heard over and over again that lighting is a key component to good photography. So in planning ahead, think about the kind of feeling that you want to convey in your image. Do you want to show those mountains in full daylight, bright sun, midday, or are you looking to convey a different kind of emotion with the evening shot that you want to take of a full moon? Every setting has different kind of lighting, and you have to determine ahead of time what kind of image you really want to be able to capture. Choose to get out and shoot in low light conditions, bright sun, or no light at all, and you'll find yourself improving your photography skills. Tip number 2, handheld or tripod. The average photographer always carries their camera around in their hand, takes pictures all the time, and sometimes they get great pictures. A lot of times they'll get images that seem to be blurry or just not quite right. There is an advantage to using a tripod. Again, if you want to improve your skills, pick up an inexpensive tripod or a monopod and compare. Go out and take some pictures, hand hold the camera, see what kind of results you get, then try to take those exact same images using a tripod and see if you get a difference. If you really want to be fancy, you may even want to consider purchasing a remote shutter control device. It will virtually eliminate any camera shake. Tip number 3, ISO settings. What exactly does that mean? ISO actually stands for the International Organization of Standardization. A bit complicated, but you don't need to know that. Really what it means is the camera's sensitivity to light. Here's another challenge for you. Next time you go out to photograph, try changing the ISO settings. Start at 100, go to 400, 800, 1200. Different situations require a different ISO setting. The amount of speed of light coming into your camera. Sports, action, nighttime shots, a way to eliminate blur. You can have fun using the ISO settings just to create new kinds of images. We're ready for tip number 4, camera modes. You'll find on the following images a host of various menu items, as we call them, that allow you to control so many different aspects of your camera. I find that most people shoot in automatic mode. They've never even experimented with some of the other menu items. Several workshops could be dedicated just to explaining the various menu functions that most cameras have. But for today's purpose, let's just focus on shooting in automatic mode. I may suggest that you look into your camera's capability to shoot in landscape mode and find that setting. It will enhance your colors. Okay, tip number 5, single shot or bursts. Let me give you some explanation of the differences. Almost any camera today has the ability to do single shot photography or multiple burst images. You've probably experienced that even on your smartphones. You hold the shutter button down and it fires off a sequence of shots, capturing the same thing so many frames per second. When it comes to landscape photography, I tend to recommend single shot photography, unless you're trying to capture movement. The point here is to learn the capability of your camera. How many frames per second can it capture images? That will be very useful depending on what kind of photography you're looking to do. We are halfway there, so here is tip number 6. Crop your shots first. Let me explain what that means. When you look through the lens of your camera and you see an image, you can immediately capture that entire image. However, when you get home and you look at it and really you just wanted to focus, let's say, from this image above, on the rainbow and the cactus, now you're going to have to spend editing time cropping the image so that you can get it to look like the picture above. Rather than take random shots, make the habit of looking through your lens, cropping it in your mind as to how you think the image should look as a finished photo, and you'll save yourself a lot of time and end up with much better images. Tip number 7, color versus black and white. You can enhance the presentation of your photography simply by converting color images into black and white images. With today's editing software, it's so easy to do. Some individuals believe that black and white is the only pure kind of photography, but really, in my opinion, it's an artist's choice. You may like to see an image in color, or you may fool around with it, shift it over to black and white, and find that that's more appealing. The point here is if you shoot in color, you easily have the ability to convert to black and white later. So I highly recommend shooting in color, and then you decide later on, by experimenting, which image you prefer to show. Let's move on now to tip number 8. Create depth of field. In photography, depth of field usually relates to a menu setting that you use on your camera. It allows you to focus on the subject that's in the foreground with a little more blur added to the image that might be 20 feet behind, for instance. I like to promote the concept of creating your own depth of field, not necessarily with a blur effect, but just to give a better sense of perspective. In this photo, the boulder in the lower left-hand corner protruding into the water allows you to get that sense of distance as the water flows down towards the mountains. Tip number 9, practice patience. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in one location for hours just waiting to capture the right image. You look at this image, the white cloud that you see coming over Superstition Mountain was way off to the right-hand side of the mountain when I first saw it. But I knew the way the wind was blowing and the clouds were moving, that eventually it was going to come right over the mountain. In my mind, that was the image I wanted to capture. So the point here is you have to have patience to see an image and make it happen. Sometimes that means it can be spontaneous, other times you'll wait a long time. Our final tip number 10, documentary versus stylistic. When you go out to photograph next time, think about how you want to present the image to other people. If it's documentary, like this picture above, it's a straight interpretation of something that's right in front of you. If you're looking to be stylistic, then maybe you're going to have to be patient, as we learned in tip number 9, and wait for that particular opportunity that turns a photojournalistic type image into an artistic image. As you see the bee is approaching this saguaro cactus blossom, that now takes it out of the category of a photojournalistic image and creates an artistic kind of photo. You can do that simply by looking for the right situations. Let me give you 5 new ideas to practice. Number 1, choose one location and photograph it 3 different times of the day and night. Number 2, find one subject and photograph it from 3 different perspectives. Number 3, create a rule of thirds photo at a favorite location. That means you have something focused on the top 1/3 of your image, something in the middle, and something featured in the lower third. Number 4, Choose one subject and photograph it with flash and without flash. Number 5. Choose one subject and photograph it at 3 different ISO settings. Thank you for participating in my workshop. My name is Randy Anagnostis, and I hope you will join me again in the future.